Hello and welcome to our discussion on the mythology behind women of Troy. This video is designed to help those who are studying Euripides' Women of Troy for the units 3 and 4 BCE, in particular the Don Taylor version of the play. It's important to know the ancient audience was well aware of the stories that shaped the play, and there is a lot of assumed knowledge on behalf of the audience. Ancient Greece was a polytheistic society, which means they worshipped many gods. These gods that they worshipped were flawed. They loved, they were angry, they were vain, they were jealous, and they had complicated relationships with each other. They stole from each other, argued, competed, loved and betrayed each other. These are not the gods that we see in our mythology nowadays, the Christian, Jewish and Muslim religions. Humans worshipped these gods because they respected and feared them, not because the gods loved us. There is no assumption that the gods love or care about humans in ancient Greek society. For example, the goddess of love is probably the most selfish and untrustworthy of all of them. Humans worship the gods because it was our civic duty to honor and worship them. Humans gave sacrifices, usually animals, sometimes money, and sometimes even human beings, to appease the gods and to ask for special favors. The three main gods are Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. These three are brothers. Hades is the oldest brother. He is the god of the underworld, and he ruled over the dead. He is the most feared. He is cold. He holds grudges. But compared to the other gods, he is not that bad. Don Taylor's translation of Women of Troy appears to have him compared to Satan and the underworld as like hell, but this was not the case. Hades was not like Satan, he was not evil, and everyone went to the underworld, not just the bad. So it's important to be aware when you're reading the passages around Cassandra, when it says hell, it's not really the equivalent of hell that Euripides intended. Poseidon was another of the important gods. He ruled the sea. Considering Greece is a collection of islands, we can see why he was such an important god. He is usually characterized as being very bad-tempered and moody and vengeful, but in Women of Troy, Euripides characterizes a softer side of him. Zeus is the most powerful of the gods. He is king of the gods and he is god of the sky. He hated dishonesty and punished oath breakers. This is a bit ironic, as he was the most infamous adulterer, sleeping with pretty much anything that moved and frequently raping or tricking mortal women into sleep with him. For example, he disguised himself as a swan and raped Helen's mother Leda, which I will explain a bit further along. Some of the lesser powerful gods that are still important to the story are Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Hera is Zeus's wife. She is usually described as vengeful and jealous, which is understandable given Zeus's indiscretions. Athena was Zeus's favorite daughter. She is the goddess of many things. She's goddess of wisdom, courage, inspiration, justice, strategic warfare, and along with other things. She's usually rational and intelligent. In Women of Troy, however, she's characterized as a bit selfish and cavalier in who she supports. Aphrodite is the goddess of love. She is beautiful, vain, selfish, disloyal, and easily offended, which says a lot about the ancient Greek attitude towards love. Aside from Athena, who is an actual character in the play, the three goddesses form part of Helen's argument that the gods are responsible for her leaving with Paris. Another important god to be aware of is Dionysus. He is the god of wine. He is known for liberating and freeing his followers of their self-consciousness and the restraints of society. He is important because it's at a festival dedicated to Dionysus that Women of Troy is performed. The Curse of Cassandra is one of the first stories we need to be aware of. It's sometimes spelt with a C, sometimes with a K. In the Don Taylor translation, he uses the C. She is the daughter of Priam and Hecuba. The story goes that Apollo, the god of the sun, truth and prophecy, admired her and tried to win her with the gift of prophecy. She promised him her favors, but after receiving his gift, she went back on her word and refused him. Apollo at that stage couldn't take back the gift, but he added to it instead, cursing her that no one would believe her. This is especially important for Cassandra's passage in Women of Troy, where she prophesies what will happen when she marries Agamemnon, but yet no one believes her. Paris's mythology is also important to be aware of. His story begins with a pregnant Hecuba who dreams that the child she is carrying, Paris, will destroy Troy. Priam and Hecuba are told to kill him, but instead of doing so, they abandon him, and he is found and raised by herdsmen. As an adult, he is recognized by Cassandra and reinstated as a prince of Troy. It's at this point that Cassandra had a prophecy about him before he went to Sparta, recommending that they do not let him go, because he will bring about the destruction of Troy. Paris' story forms the basis of Euripides' first play in this trilogy, named Alexandros. Helen's background is also significant. The story goes that her mother, Leda, was raped by Zeus, who was disguised as a swan, and that Helen was born from an egg. She was always beautiful, technically being a demigoddess. As a child, she is kidnapped by Theseus, and is rescued by her twin brothers Castor and Pollux, something that Hecuba refers to in the play. When she is of age, suitors from all over the Greek world come to win her hand in marriage. This obviously caused a lot of tension. To resolve this issue, we have the Oath of Tyndareus, where whichever suitor won her would have the support of all the other suitors, thus making sure they did not go to war over her. This effectively united all of Greece, the Achaean version, basically, of the World War I alliance system, which dragged all of Greece into the Trojan War. Both of these stories culminate with the Golden Apple of Discord, or the Judgment of Paris, which it is also known as. There was a beauty contest, where the prize was a golden apple that would be given to the most beautiful goddess. This sparked a vanity-fueled dispute between Hera, Aphrodite, and Athena. They brought Paris in as a judge. He had to decide who was the most beautiful. Obviously, they tried to bribe him. Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman in the world if he picked her. As we know, he ends up picking the most beautiful woman in the world, and therefore Aphrodite wins. This is why Athena and Hera hate the Trojans, because Paris is a Trojan. It's also important to note that Aphrodite failed to mention that Helen, the prize that she offered, was already married. This did not stop Paris from collecting his prize. He was sent as an envoy with his brother Hector to the kingdom of Menelaus in Sparta. While there, he meets Helen and falls in love with her. When chance arises, he takes her on his ship back to Troy. Now, whether she is abducted or liberated is under dispute depending on which version you read. Helen argues that yes, she did feel lust for him, but she had no choice. She was the goddess's playthings. It is understandable why she is called the face that launched 1,000 ships. And so in taking Helen, Paris triggered the Oath of Tyndareus, and all of the Greek armies in the nation united to launch against the Trojans. This sparked a war that lasted 10 years. This war has its own mythology. I'm just going to give you an overview of some of the mythology so that you understand why it is significant that the women are allotted to the men who choose them. First of all, we have Agamemnon and Menelaus. They are brothers. Agamemnon is in charge of the army. We actually meet Menelaus within the play. Before travelling to Troy, Agamemnon actually sacrifices his own daughter to appease the gods and have safe passage across the seas. It is this that his wife seeks revenge for when he returns with Cassandra. We also have the two main heroes, Achilles and Hector. Achilles is on the Greek side. He is their main hero. He is a demigod and is virtually untouchable apart from his heel. He and Agamemnon are fighting with each other. Agamemnon disrespects him at one point. Achilles leaves the battle. He comes back to revenge the death of his friend, and when he comes back, he has a battle with Hector and kills Hector. Hector was the Trojan warrior that Cassandra talks about. After this, Achilles meets Polysena and takes a liking to her. Paris takes advantage of this and uses his sister Polysena as bait to trick Achilles into meeting her. While he's meeting her, they ambush him and Paris shoots Achilles in his heel, killing him. Later on, Achilles' son, Neoptolemus, joins the battle. After the war, when Paris is dead, his father is dead, he is the one that actually sacrifices Polyxena at the altar of his father's grave. By the time we get to the end of the war, we have a dead Achilles, a dead Hector, a dead Paris. Polyxena soon follows, and so at the end of the war, we have a very happy Neoptolemus who has avenged his father by sacrificing Polyxena, and he also gets to choose to marry Hector's wife, Andromache. We also have a very happy Menelaus and Agamemnon, who have no idea what is in store for them when they return. After 10 long years, the Greeks and the Trojans had reached a stalemate in the war, without any advancement taking place. Athena inspired Odysseus with the idea of the Trojan horse. She gave him the idea of creating a wooden horse and hiding soldiers inside. And then the Greeks sailed away, pretending to give up, leaving the horse behind. The Trojans saw the horse left behind and assumed it was there to honor the gods, and so they brought it inside the walls of Troy. As they were partying into the night, those soldiers stuck out from the wooden horse and opened the gates to the Greek fleet which had returned in the darkness. And thus we have the sacking of Troy. It's at this stage that we also have Cassandra's assault by Ajax the Lesser. It is this assault which sparks Athena's anger and causes her to go against the Greeks, when previously she had been a supporter. Which leads us to Women of Troy. I hope this has been helpful in giving you a little bit of background. You can research these stories if you want more information, but this should be enough to get you started. Good luck!